Tired of jumping through hoops to buy Bitcoin? Frustrated with endless paperwork and invasive identity checks? Introducing Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club's loan program. No KYC required. Say goodbye to the hassle and hello to freedom. Borrow up to $250,000 at as little as 7% interest. Join our community and take control of your financial future. Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where privacy meets opportunity. Connect with like-minded individuals and grow together. Visit us today and unlock your $250,000 Bitcoin loan. Your journey to financial freedom starts here.
Good morning and welcome to Bitcoin Thursdays with Dr. J. I'm Dr. J. Delighted to be here today. And today we're going to talk about hope. We're going to talk about the rebirth of the American dream and how Bitcoin makes it real. Now, yesterday I was looking at my X feed, and I came across a chart which really, shook me because I remember buying my first home at age 24, and I printed this chart out for you, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but it shows you basically the median age at which Americans are buying their first home, the first time home buyer. This number here is 40. It's disturbing. It's disturbing at many levels that the average age of the American buying their first home is 40 years old. The American dream is fast slipping from our grip. I want to talk more about that. We have lost two generations that have essentially, all they have done is, for all the work that they have done, paid taxes, paid loans, and lost their money to inflation. There's nothing left. They stay with their parents. It's not good. But there is a message of hope here. There is a way we can preserve our value. There is a way we will be able to live the American dream again. And Bitcoin is the future of America. That's what I want to delve into today with each one of you. For generations, it was a promise that if you worked hard, you played by the rules, and you persevered, you could own your home. You could raise a family. You could live a better life than your parents. It was the freedom of choice. It was the freedom to build your life. It was the freedom to keep and preserve what you earned. But somewhere along that way, that dream was stolen. We outsourced our work to Chinese factories. Inflation and the Federal Reserve kept printing money. And that inflation ate into and eroded the value. We got suffocated by debt. We got suffocated and killed by the corrupt financial system, where the banks were rewarded because they were too big to fail, and where speculation made more money than actually the sweat off your brow. And many of us Americans wonder if that dream ever was real. And yet there's hope. There's hope because the dreams of the American people don't die. They simply wait. And now the American dream has the ability and the potential to be reborn, not because of some government decree, not through Wall Street bailouts, but through Bitcoin, right? So I'm going to actually show you another chart. I was actually talking to a group of people, a group of retirees in Charlotte County a couple of days ago with Ben, and I said, here is Bitcoin. Here's Bitcoin, $100 in 2020, and in 2025, it's only worth $76. That's the US dollar has dropped almost 25% in the 5 years. That's the power of erosion. And if you look at Bitcoin in 2020, right here, the same $100 is now worth roughly $1,200, right? So Bitcoin has appreciated. So what people think is happening is that Bitcoin is going up. We keep talking about, hey, Bitcoin is up to 113,000 today. Bitcoin is up to 124,000. No, what's really happening is Bitcoin is holding its value. The value of the dollar is falling through the floor. And nowhere is it more apparent today than in the housing market, right? Because houses have become unaffordable. There's a affordability index, and it's at the peak it has ever been. Houses are more unaffordable than it has ever been before. And at the same time, you know, generations upon generations of Americans have no hope to buy a house because it costs too much. But does it? Does it really cost too much? Because if you look at the price of homes about 30 years ago, you would have to, if it was in Bitcoin, you would have paid roughly 600 Bitcoin for the average $300,000 American home. 10 years ago, you would have paid 45 Bitcoin for a $300,000 to $400,000 average American home. Today, for the same house, you're going to pay roughly 5 Bitcoin. So what you're realizing is that the American dream is still alive. When I go to Steak and Shake and I buy my burger with Bitcoin, which I did, and I continue to support them, and I continue to go and get that clean beef tallow and the great hamburgers that Steak and Shake makes. Hats off to you guys for doing it right. When I pay with Bitcoin, every time it goes up, my effective cost of that burger is the cost of the burger 20 years ago. Why is that? Because I bought the Bitcoin at $70,000. Now my Bitcoin is sitting at $120,000. It's appreciated 50 to 60%, which means the same burger, which is costing $8 right now for the rest of the world, paying in US dollars, it's $8. But in my Bitcoin, it's less and less Bitcoin that I have to give. I'm effectively giving $3. So my burger is costing what the burger cost in the year 1995. And as Bitcoin continues to go up, yeah, we are going to come back to that American dream of getting that soda pop and that burger for 89 cents. Because as Bitcoin goes up, that same $9 burger is actually costing me 90 cents. We can get there. So this is the dream. This is the hope. And I'm going to give you 10 different strategies today through which enterprises and small and medium businesses and individuals can and should leverage what Bitcoin can do for you. And when you start to do that, the glimmer of that American hope, that American dream starts to come back. The average person who is giving up today is going to have hope again because their labor that's being converted into dollars, right? It's your work that's converted into value. And if that value is sitting in dollars, that $100 that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into making is only worth $76 5 years later. What's your incentive to work? I don't want to work because it doesn't make sense. Everything I make, the government taxes away, inflation erodes away, and my school loan takes away. And I stay in my parents' basement. What incentive do I've given up hope? I'm broken. We have a broken country, folks. We have a broken generation, maybe two. And we need to rebuild that. And this is the first time we actually have the tools to rebuild it. But before we go into the tools to rebuild it, let's see what got us here. Very briefly, in 1971, the dollar was broken away from the gold reserve. American money became untethered. Printing became an easy solution. And when you give politicians easy solutions, they bang that hammer as many times as they can. Wages stagnated and asset prices soared, right? Inflation happened. And I never really understood what it even means to say, backed by the full faith and credit. What the heck does that even mean? The US dollar is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. Well, the same government that never made a dime in its life, the same government that runs the post office, which runs a $16 billion deficit, the same government that had USAID sending, I don't know how many billions for transgender frogs in Tasmania, the same government, that faith and credit. What does it even mean? So that's why we are here. We are here because we put our faith in the full faith and trust of the US government, a broken institution that needs to be debunked. All right. And what else did we do wrong? We outsourced under this guise of globalization. American factories closed down, towns hollowed out, small farms, ranchers swallowed up by the multinationals. You've heard me and Texas Slim talk about it. JBS, Cargill, Monsanto. The American farmer is gone. Small towns have disappeared. All mining has disappeared. Manufacturing has disappeared. Our factories have closed. We don't know how to build a screw. We import it from China. Well, that's got to have to change. We need to bring manufacturing back. President Trump has been talking about that. So this globalization is a bunch of crap. We have outsourced our lives. We don't even make our own vitamins. Our country is getting older. All of the vitamins are made in China. We should have a vitamin reserve so that if something happens, at least we have basic medication, basic vitamins for our own people. We let that slide. We lived in this delusion, watching TV, smoking pot, watching porn, a society that degenerated into where it is today, where we are in this debt trap, where every time we have to pay our bills, we hit that printer button over and over again. Hit me again. And Americans became addicted, not only at the federal level, on the government level, but on credit cards. We are all financed by credit cards, mortgages that we can't afford. The dream has become a treadmill. It's become a hamster wheel that you keep on going. And at some point, you get tired. That's what's happened to our last two generations. They're tired. They're broken. They don't have the will to work. Because why? Why should I work? Why should I wake up every morning and go run in that treadmill, which gets me nowhere? When I make that money, it gets eaten up by inflation. It gets taken away by the loan guys. The banks make money. Wall Street makes money. And I'm still in my basement, drinking my soy latte and looking at my iPhone, which I still is on a payment plan. That's a tragedy. The hardworking men and women of our country have been left behind. Farmers, ranchers, small business owners, and middle-class families. But that is what we are going to change. That's why the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club is here. Because we are at this turning point. Understand something. Ben's been talking about this all week. Trump has openly embraced Bitcoin, calling it, what does he call it? America's second chance at sound money. He's saying something that many in Washington refuse to admit. He went out and did tariffs, right? You hear all sorts of things about the tariffs. Tariffs is a protection. It levels the playing field against foreign imports. It creates the breathing room that our American factories and our American manufacturers and our American farmers and American entrepreneurs and small businesses need to put that made in America sign again on everything we do. It's not just a slogan, it's a competitive reality. So, tariffs that Trump is putting, and by the way, Scott Bessent said just yesterday that he had already collected something like $600 billion in tariffs. This thing is working, folks. This thing is real. It's making the playing field level so that China can't keep taking slave labor from children and making Nike shoes that we keep consuming, and our own industry doesn't grow, doesn't thrive. Just like tariffs is going to protect the American industry, and it is, and we're seeing the results of that, Bitcoin is going to be the national strength that defends the value that is being created. The wealth that Americans are creating through their hard work is going to be protected by Bitcoin. It'll shield Americans from inflation. It'll shield Americans from not losing the hard work that they're doing, frittered away in the winds of globalization. America leads today in technology. Bitcoin is one of the coolest technologies of digital finance out there. America needs to take the lead in Bitcoin so that we can actually use it as a competitive advantage, as a weapon, as a country. So together, tariffs plus Bitcoin becomes a Mike Tyson 1-2 punch. It defends American labor from unfair competition, and it defends American savings from monetary debasement. So what does this rebirth of America through Bitcoin really look like? I actually put together 10 areas that I'm going to give you brief glimpses into that this rebirth of the American people of our country can look like. The first is sound money for hard work. If you're a truck driver, if you're a factory worker, if you're a farmer, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an average American going to your 9-to-5 job and you're working, what are you doing? You're converting your labor into wealth. Now, if that wealth is being given to you as a US dollar, we know it's eroding. But Bitcoin makes it worth keeping because it appreciates in value, because it stays safe, because it can be burnt, it can be taken away from you, it can be eroded, it can be drowned in a flood. Suddenly, that to me as an individual gives me hope, right? It says the work that I do every day from 9 to 5 or 8 to 8 or 7 to 11 at night, and I do 3 jobs as a single mother, at least the job that I'm doing, the work that I'm putting in is worth something that holds its value. That's the hope that Bitcoin is going to give average Americans. Second, Bitcoin treasuries for small businesses and for individuals. What do I mean by that? So look at Nvidia this morning. They dropped 5-6%, right? Maybe there's some profit taking going on, but equities have been the mainstay of preserving wealth. Equities, by that I mean stocks, right? Bonds hardly keep up with inflation. It's no good. Gold, minimal gains. It's a good value, but you can't run around, make gold work for you because it's not tradable and it's not sellable and it's not liquid and it's got all these problems, right? It's got weighs a ton of money and then somebody can steal it from you. Land is good, potentially. That's been a good asset, but it has its ups and downs. It can be flooded away. But if you look at equities, which has been the only real bright spot over the last, decades, It's grown at 7% year over year. And what do we mean by stocks? Why does a stock have value? Right? Equities have value, stocks have value because that company generates something, it produces something, it sells a service. And when it sells a service or produces a product and sells that product, it makes money. Hopefully, it makes more money than it spends on the supply chain to make that product. That's called profit. And from that profit comes what is called cash flow, right? Earnings. So the stock value depends on your future earnings. Now, there's a book value of a stock, which is what are all the assets you have, how many buildings you got, how many people, and all that stuff, and that gives you the book value. But the stock value, the enterprise value, is calculated based on a discounted cash flow. It looks at how much money will you make next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. What is your earnings going to be? And if your earnings is going to be a lot, you're going to spit out a lot of cash, well, your stock's going to start to go up. And that's what you hold in your 401k plan. You hope that the company that you bought the stock for keeps making more cash flow. Cash flow is the only thing that makes money, right? That's the only thing that gets value to the stock. Now, there's all kinds of penny stocks. I'm not talking about that garbage. I'm talking about the normal stocks that people have and hold and have made fortunes with. Now, if inflation is going to eat away at the value that these companies are the engines of wealth generation. They're the only engines of wealth generation, right? So as these companies, Tesla and Nvidia and Apple, when they make money, they spit out cash, their stock goes up. But if that cash that they're spitting out over the next so many years gets eroded because of inflation, because of bad monetary policies, because of globalization, what's going to happen? The cash flow is going to be less because it's being eroded away. And therefore, the stock value will be less. And therefore, your 401k plan is going to have less appreciation with stocks when you have a $37 trillion debt sitting over the equities market, where taking loans is difficult, right? So these companies are some of the smartest companies in the world. I'm talking about the biggest companies that are smart as heck. They got the smartest people, get paid millions of dollars to do what they do. So what did they do? They went and said, you know what we're going to do? As we create wealth, we're going to start to buy Bitcoin. Tesla buys a ton of Bitcoin. X buys a lot of Bitcoin, right? Nvidia buys a lot of Bitcoin. Apple buys a lot of Bitcoin. Because what they're saying is, hey, we are creating all this wealth by selling our products, by selling, Apple phones, Apple watches. We don't want to lose that money. So they're buying Bitcoin quietly, secretly, not so secretly. They're buying Bitcoin so that the wealth that they're creating is preserved. It's preserved in their own treasury. It's preserved on their balance sheet. Not only is it preserving the wealth that these companies created, it's doing something even better. As the Bitcoin appreciates, it generates cash flow. Its value becomes more. They have the ability to put that into their cash flow, and now their stock can go even higher, right? This is what the smartest companies are doing. Right now, we have over 1,800 entrepreneurs, and not entrepreneurs, but bigger companies, corporations, that are actively buying Bitcoin to put on their balance sheet so that all the wealth that they're creating is preserved and appreciates. They understand this. The big guys know this. They've been doing it for a while. But when I go out and talk to the small businesses, corporations, little companies around my office right here, when I talk to individuals, hey, do you know there's a strategy in which the wealth that you create can be stored? It can grow in value. They don't have a clue. The mom and pop shops don't know what Bitcoin is. They don't know what a Bitcoin reserve is. They don't know that it can insulate them from inflation, giving them the same financial advantage that the billion-dollar corporations get. Our job is to let them know. that these are strategies that the smartest companies in the world are doing right now. Don't get left behind. Don't lament 2 years from now and say, oh, gee, I wish I could have done that. All this hard work that I'm putting in and the value I'm created, I wish I knew I had a Noah's Ark into which I could put that value, and it would not only stay valuable, it would actually grow in value. Well, folks, this is true for each one of you as individuals. The value you're creating through your work, through your small business, through working a 9 to 5 job, doing 3 jobs as a waitress in a restaurant, you are converting your work into a fistful of dollars. And what I'm telling you is, if you leave it in dollars, your work goes to naught. You need to convert that into Bitcoin and keep it in your own treasury, and you become the bank. And when you become the bank as an entrepreneur, as you start saving and stacking that Bitcoin, it becomes collateral for loans. You don't have to go to the bank and beg. You don't have to have a crushing interest rate and a note. You have honest collateral. You don't have to have a 720 on your credit score. Who gives a shit what some company called Experian decided? Oh, you didn't pay your bill on time, so we're going to be the arbiters of how credit worthy you are. Hell with that. When you have Bitcoin, you can borrow against that Bitcoin without ever selling it. And you can use that money for your business. You can use it as a line of credit. You can use it to grow and expand what you're doing. You can use it to buy a house. You can use it to start a farm. What I'm telling you guys is that Bitcoin is the first product, currency that's allowing you to do that. You couldn't do that before. It has the stability and strength of preserving as gold, and it is as liquid as a currency. And by the way, it's a $3 trillion market. You can sell your Bitcoin for dollars anytime, anywhere on the planet, right? So this is a huge advantage. And as I'm giving you these tricks, these ways in which companies are using, people are using Bitcoin to their advantage, get on board with it. Don't get left behind on this amazing transformation that is happening in our world today. The next thing, number 4, tariffs will meet Bitcoin settlement. What do I mean by that? President Trump is going out there and saying, hey, American goods will be protected by tariffs. These products that we're going to make in our ports and our free trade zones and our manufacturing base is going to continue to grow. We are going to continue to not only be consumers of those products in America, we're going to export them globally. And when we export them globally, the settlement can happen in Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin doesn't belong to any one country. We can get paid in Bitcoin, which then the American company receives Bitcoin, and that makes its own treasury even stronger. So when American manufacturing is going to continue to grow, American entrepreneurs continue to make beautiful products that are respected and loved around the world, as it once was. Our products were the best products. They always had a premium. If you had an American-made product, you paid more. And people bought it because there was quality. We're going to get back to that, right? We're going to get back to that. And when we do, Bitcoin will become a mechanism through which we will be able to get money back into our country, because the foreign countries will also pay in Bitcoin. The 5th area of Bitcoin that really sort of attracts my attention is the energy independence. The energy independence that can be created in our country to mine Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is pure energy. It's one of the most beautiful currencies. It's one of the most beautiful things, digital products out there, which really is pure energy. It costs us, many of you members are in mining through our club. We're making good money doing it. As Bitcoin goes up, we make more money. But it's, you guys know, it's costing us, $40 to $50,000 to make a single Bitcoin. It's real. It's like any other, costs you something to produce carrots in a field. You got fertilizers and water and electric pumps and greenhouses and labor and picking and packing and harvesting. And there's a cost to doing business. The same thing is true if you're mining for gold or oil. And the same thing is true if you're building a software product. The same thing is true when you're building microchips. The same thing is true when you're building cars. You have raw materials. The same thing is true for Bitcoin. But in this case, the raw material is energy, just pure raw energy in kilowatt hours. And the more energy we pump in, the more Bitcoin it produces. The more scale we can get this energy at, the cheaper that energy can be, the cheaper we make the Bitcoin. And then the price difference between the cost at which we make the Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin is our profit, just like any other company. There's a revenue, and on my income statement, there's a cost of goods sold, the COGS, and we got net income. And from that, we remove the operating income, and we get the net profits, which we call EBITDA, earnings before income taxes, amortization, right? Which is a measure of how companies create cash flow, which is a measure of multiples of cash flow is what you see as enterprise value. Well, Amazon's trading at 40 times its earnings. Shit, that means for the next 40 years, whatever it makes, that's what the price of stock is right now, right? So really important to understand that energy independence and energy creation, and by the way, the world's going to move to more and more of a distributed energy creation. In the old days, energy was all created in a big old coal generating factory. You'd see stacks, you see big, smoke coming out, billowing out of these tall pillars in every city. And you still see that around the world. It's much less in America now because we aren't burning that much coal to produce electricity. But then we have moved to nuclear. You see those big domes in many places. Those are being activated. And then you got natural gas. In Florida, where I am, we get a lot of natural gas coming from the Gulf of America. And this natural gas can be pumped into low pressure pipes, into turbines, and you can have 5 to 10 megawatt units generating power. Now, why am I saying this is important? It's important because most of America is rural. It's not just New York and LA. If you look at our rural communities, they have tons of land. They have tons of sunlight. They have tons of natural gas. There's lots of flares. There's even abandoned oil wells with flares on them. These are all sources of energy. There's wind farms in Texas, mile after mile after mile. I've driven through little towns like Canyon, Texas, and Silverton, Texas, and it's amazing. You see just streams and streams of windmills that are generating energy. We're just putting a deal together for 150 megawatt generation capability, and that's pretty remarkable because these farms and these open spaces are producing energy, and they'll continue to produce energy when there's an economic model to do it. Bitcoin mining gives them an economic model to convert that energy into money, into cash flow. Not just any cash flow, but money that actually preserves and appreciates, called Bitcoin. So I think as we become a Bitcoin nation, energy is going to become a very, very important factor. The sixth big area that we need to look at, why Bitcoin brings hope, why it is going to allow us to have that American dream all over again. The American Renaissance is happening right now in front of your eyes. The Bitcoin revolution is the new rich revolution that Ben talks about. The American dream is alive and well. The American dream is going to continue. We are going to have farmers band together and create Bitcoin treasuries locally, mining their excess energy on their farms, lowering the cost of irrigation, lowering the cost of refrigeration, lowering the cost of diesel and fuel. Do you have any idea that an average farmer's more than 15% of his cost is just fuel and cooling and heating and running the groundwater pumps? This is huge. Agriculture can be reborn with Bitcoin's resilience and ability to help the American farmer. That's food sovereignty. That's food security. I think we're going to move towards clean water, clean food, and Bitcoin's going to play a huge role in doing that. And then there's, of course, Bitcoin funded US goods. So we're already starting that with our bank, Bitcoin backed loans and financing structures that are going to give us the ability to retool our factories, to create new manufacturing. I'm actually working on a proposal for the Senate in the state of Florida to actually take President Trump's overall initiative to increase manufacturing in the United States to bring it down to Florida and see how we can create the retooling of American manufacturing here at our seaports, where we get the raw materials from other countries, where we can have free trade zones, how we can build and create manufacturing jobs, right? So the tariffs are going to continue to press the demand for American-made products. Bitcoin is going to fund the retooling of American manufacturing. This is really big. The eighth area of Bitcoin that is going to impact your lives is what I'll broadly call the tokenization of real world assets, right? This is huge. This is probably 2 years to 3 years down the road, but it is coming. Basically, every asset that you can think of, whether it's a company, whether it's a building, whether it's a mine, whether it's a deep water port, all of the things that are going to fulfill the promise of the American dream of ownership, of dignity that comes with ownership. See, when you own something, when you really own something, you're living the American dream. That ownership of your home, that ownership of your car, that ownership of your land, that ownership of a real world asset is the American dream. It gives you dignity. It gives you hope. Isn't that what we are all about? So Bitcoin, along with its Lightning chain, along with ETH, smart contracts, and ERC20, all of the real world assets that produce money are going to become tokenized. This is happening, folks. It's not a question of whether you like it or not. Just like in the 90s, when Apple came up and said, hey, we're not going to have any more of these vinyl records and all of this stuff. We're going to digitize all the music and we're going to stream it to you. We're going to charge you for it. They made tons of money. They made those little iPods, and then eventually your phone became the mechanism. Now you can't really sell music unless it's been digitized, right? That happened fairly quickly. The same thing is going to happen here. Everything that you know of value will get digitized, and then it'll be tokenized. And when it gets tokenized, you will hold that token in your wallet, which says it's yours and no one can take it away. It's going to be protected by the blockchain. It's going to be protected by the hashes. It's going to be protected by the crypto, the cryptography that allows us to keep what is ours. And then what you're going to start finding is that We're going to go from that globalization to what I term hyper-localization. It's the antithesis of globalization, which means you'll have circular economies of Bitcoin, where little towns will grow, where things are tokenized, where every company is registered on a blockchain. And these little towns will sell bread and they'll sell vegetables, and it's going to be in Bitcoin. And that Bitcoin will stay within the community without Wall Street or Visa or MasterCard bleeding away all that wealth from that town. Because what happens today is every time you do transactions, you give me money, I give you money. Wall Street and the companies out there are sucking a part of it out every time. That money doesn't circulate in your community. It gets sucked out. And over enough time, all of it gets sucked out. Every time you do transactions, a piece of it's going away somewhere. Well, Bitcoin allows you to keep that wealth within the communities instead of being bled out. That's going to be a huge change because we're going to start to have local economies thrive. The economies that adopt Bitcoin as the early adopters suddenly are building great new buildings, opera houses, art, culture is going to start to thrive. We're going to start to live that American dream again, and it's going to start in the counties and in the cities and in the states that adopt Bitcoin. This is coming. There's no denying it. It's just a question of who takes that first mover advantage. Right now, it's the corporations, actually, the biggest and the baddest of corporations who have embraced Bitcoin. Whether you understand that fully or not, that's what's happening. Get on the bandwagon, start to understand the power of Bitcoin. And finally, here's what's going to happen. Bitcoin is going to become the settlement currency of the 21st century. As America leads in Bitcoin adoption, not just as an investment, but as a settlement currency, tariffs will be paid in Bitcoin. Global trades will clear in Bitcoin. America's sound money will become the new petrodollar. It'll become the new way of doing world commerce, global commerce, just the way dollar used to be. And when dollar used to be that currency of settlement, the American dream was very much alive and thriving. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what is going to happen again as this Bitcoin freedom money starts to become dominant. Dominant across dollars, dominant over gold, dominant over equities. All of that will be there, but Bitcoin will anchor it because the CBDCs are the enemy. The central bank digital currency understands that the world is moving to a digital world, but they want a digital currency they can control. Bitcoin doesn't allow that. Bitcoin is the currency of the citizens. And because it belongs to us, what's in your wallet? They can't weaponize it against us. It puts power back into the hands of we the people. It's a shield against global chaos, against the debasement of currency, defaults, collapses. When the banks collapse, why should you lose your money? It doesn't make any sense. The bank CEO didn't run the bank properly, and suddenly you've got nothing in your checking account? I'm sorry. How does that work again? Well, with Bitcoin, that doesn't happen. It's yours. You can stand tall. And your Bitcoin reserve is your Bitcoin reserve. Your Bitcoin miners are still spitting out Bitcoin. And when you do Bitcoin based trade, you keep your value with you. So tariffs plus Bitcoin equals leverage. That's what Trump is doing. Start to understand. You keep hearing about tariffs constantly in the news. Tariff good, tariff bad, tariff ugly, tariff whatever. But understand, Trump's strategy is very clear. It's just one equation. Tariffs plus Bitcoin equals leverage. America regains its bargaining power when it has leverage. I'm not talking about the leverage that is coming from the Abrams, M1 Abrams tanks or from a shield that can protect us against missiles. Yes, that's also leverage, nuclear threat, et cetera, et cetera. But the real leverage is economic leverage. That's strong money. That's the ability to stand there and say, we have 300 million people who are the world's largest consumers. And guess what? I'm not going to let you enter this pool. That's leverage. Tariffs plus Bitcoin equals leverage. That's as simple as I can put it. This is not isolation by any means. It is our strength. And it is that strength which will bring respect back to America. It is that strength that is going to make the American dream possible. It is that strength that will make money honest again, and it'll make trade fair again, and it'll make savings real again. And as President Trump says, it'll make America strong again. So Bitcoin is very much a part and parcel of the American dream. And the sooner you embrace it, the faster you will start to see that your wallet is getting fatter, that your assets are growing, that you have a little more time to breathe, to buy that home that you wanted, and to live the life that you want. But it starts with taking that first step. You got to get into the clubs. We are here to educate. We are here to inform. We are here to participate as a community. We have clubs coming up all over the country. And we're going to accelerate that even faster as we grow in strength and structure. We're going to continue to accelerate to 30 clubs across the country in the next 2 years and internationally. And we're going to do not only the mining operations that we do for our members, we're going to start to do banking and financial services and loans and ways to make Bitcoin work for you. We're going to unleash the potential energy that is stored in Bitcoin to create cash flows. And with that cash flow will come real value, real savings, real earnings, and your stock will go up because your earnings will go up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. I'll come back again next week. I hope you gained something from this conversation. Come into the clubs, meet our folks, give us a call, join as a member if you're not already a member. We love you, and we are here to share all things Bitcoin. God bless, and God bless America.
Tired of jumping through hoops to buy Bitcoin? Frustrated with endless paperwork and invasive identity checks? Introducing Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club's loan program. No KYC required. Say goodbye to the hassle and hello to freedom. Borrow up to $250,000 at as little as 7% interest. Join our community and take control of your financial future. Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where privacy meets opportunity. Connect with like-minded individuals and grow together. Visit us today and unlock your $250,000 Bitcoin loan. Your journey to financial freedom starts here.